Howdy everyone. I've often said that some of my favourite lenses in the world are fast standard zoom lenses for APS-C cameras, and one of the most impressive that I have tested so far is the Tamron 17-70mm f2.8, which I tested on Sony E-mount a little while ago. What a great zoom range, and it's a sharp optic too. I think I predicted in a recent video about upgrading your Fuji kit lens that I thought Tamron would be bringing this to Fuji X mount eventually. Well, call me Criswell, because today Tamron are announcing its arrival there for you. Yes, here is their 17-70mm f2.8 Di3A VC RXD lens on Fuji X mount. It costs a bit over $800 or about £830 here in the UK. I'm gonna put it through its paces once again to see how well it performs on X mount and to report any changes or issues to you. I'd like to thank Tamron for sending me an early copy of this lens for testing, although as usual this is a totally independent review. The lens's build quality is absolutely typical for a modern Tamron device. It's mostly made of plastic, but still manages to feel quite solid and tightly assembled, weighing 530 grams. It's based on a metal lens mount with a weather sealing gasket around the edge. The lens's body has only two control points. First comes a plastic focus ring, which turns reasonably smoothly and responds reasonably well with the focus motor to being turned. As you can see here, the good news for video makers is that the lens displays very little focus breathing. I also tested to see if it's parfocal. Unfortunately not though, as your focus point will shift just a little as you zoom in and out. Here you can see the camera automatically catches up the focus to your zoom movements. The lens's autofocus motor is averagely fast, accurate and almost completely silent. As I've mentioned, this lens features its own image stabilization system, or VC as they call it. That's a wise decision from Tamron, as few of Fuji's X-mount cameras feature their own in-body image stabilization at the moment. You have to turn it on and off in your camera's menu. Here's some footage with the stabilization turned off and now turned on. As you can see here, it's doing a pretty good job. It's holding your image decently still, which will be useful both for stills and video work. Next comes a rubberized zoom ring. It turns averagely smoothly without really any stickiness to it, again handy for video work. The lens's filter size is 67mm wide, which is becoming the standard for Tamron lenses nowadays, and it comes with a small plastic hood also. Overall, while the lens doesn't feel like it's carved out of granite, it's still solid and all its electronics work pretty well. Its electronics handling nicely, particularly on my Fuji X-T3 camera. Alright, let's move on and look at the all-important image quality. I'm testing it here on a Fuji X-T3 with its 26MP APS-C sensor. At 17mm straight from f2.8, sharpness and contrast are perfect in the middle of the image. Over in the corners, the image is almost as sharp, but we're seeing some fairly heavy colour fringing here. Perhaps the in-camera corrections need a little tweaking. Stop down to f4 for excellent sharpness and contrast in the corners, but the colour fringing remains. The lens stays this sharp down to f11, where the effects of diffraction begin to cause some softness. Let's zoom in a bit to 35mm. At f2.8, again, sharpness and contrast are excellent in the middle. Here though, at 35mm, the corner image quality is virtually as good, with no visible colour fringing. That's great. Stopping down to f4 brings a little edge of extra contrast into the corners. The lens stays this sharp again, down to f11. Let's zoom all the way into 70mm now. At f2.8, we finally see a slight weakness. Image sharpness remains good, but contrast is a bit lower here. Image quality becomes a little soft in the corners. Stop down to f4 and we see a slight improvement in contrast in those corners. Back in the middle though, we now see an excellent performance again. f5.6 looks just as great in the middle, and now the corners are just a touch sharper. Once again, the corners look this sharp down to f11. So, Overall, if we don't take into account the performance at 70mm and f2.8, the lens's image quality is fairly good here. While it may not be performing miracles, well, considering the zoom range, it is decently sharp with good contrast. And even at 70mm, the image quality is hardly bad, and topping down sharpens things up considerably, so it's a forgivable weak point, I think. Alright, let's turn in-camera corrections off and take a look at distortion and vignetting. At 17mm we see moderately strong barrel distortion as expected, and darkness in the corners at f2.8. Stop down to f4, f5.6 and f8 to see that darkness gradually get pushed back into the corners. Zoom into 22mm and the distortion straightens out, and at 70mm that distortion has long since flipped into quite strong pin cushion shape, and again the corners suffer from vignetting. At f4 and f5.6 those corners brighten up again. So it's exactly the kind of performance you'd expect from a fast standard zoom lens here. You will need to keep those in-camera corrections turned on, as they are automatically on a Fuji camera. This lens has a very cool bonus feature which I haven't mentioned yet, a close focus ability which lets you shoot very close to your subject indeed, whether you're zoomed in or out. At 17mm when you're zoomed out, the close-up image quality remains sharp at f2.8 and very sharp if you stop down to f4 for some dramatic images. If you're shooting at 70mm, then your close-up image quality will be very soft at f2.8 with colour tinting. Stop down to f4, f5.6 and f8 to see gradual improvements that lead to excellent image quality again, so bear all that in mind when shooting close up. Now let's see how the lens performs against bright light. At wide angles we see little in the way of flaring. It's a reasonably good performance. Zoom in and the flaring gets a lot worse though, as you can see here. And finally, bokeh, an important question on a fast standard zoom lens. Often these fast standard zoom lenses will struggle to give you soft out-of-focus backgrounds, but not this one. Whether you're shooting at wide angles or telephoto, those backgrounds look impressively smooth with no ugliness or problems at all. Overall, well, this lens retains its very pleasing image quality on Fuji X cameras, and the transition to a new mount has been achieved with no real issues at all. On top of that, its build quality is decent, and its autofocus and image stabilization all work really well, coupled with the fact that its parameters make it one of the most useful and flexible lenses you could possibly own, and its very reasonable, although somewhat expensive price, well, this lens absolutely still comes highly recommended. I love making these reviews. Camera lenses are exciting but also expensive, so it's my pleasure to test them all out for you. If you'd like to support this channel and enjoy sneak previews of upcoming reviews, as well as some exclusive content and special videos every month that I make just for supporters, then head on over to Patreon and join in the party over there. There's a link in the description below. See you next time.